courtship? Why is it important for us to be discussing this today? A good marriage begins from a good courtship, where the intentions of marriage is made clear to both parties that is involved. And you must understand, when we look at the Bible, courtship is not foreign in the Bible. Men and women will be thrown to each other with the knowledge of their parents, their church, or their family. So it's not something that is new, something that has been since Bible days. Next slide. What is courtship about? And why should we still get ourselves involved in this? You must understand that courtship is a period of great importance and a necessary part of every successful marriage. Why? Because courtship is the foundation. Courtship is the building block of any successful marriage. And the strength of the house is usually kind of based on the strength of the foundation. Have you not seen some houses that they've had to probably bring down some parts of the house because the foundation was faulty? No matter how much you spend on the edifice, if the foundation is faulty, what can the righteous do? And courtship is that foundation that leads to a steady marriage edifice. What is courtship? That's the period when there is an establishment of an agreed relationship. Establishment of an agreed relationship. This is very important. Not assumed relationship, but agreed relationship between two people of the opposite sex. Of the opposite sex. Of the opposite sex. Intended to lead to marriage. You see, we have to emphasize agreed relationship because many people are in assumed relationships. Many people end up in assumed relationships. And at the end of the day, they progress to marriage out of pity. I've sure wasted your time. I've wasted 4 years. Let's just do. And there is nothing more demeaning than than knowing that somebody married you out of pity. Because that would consistently be something that they hold against you. You know, I don't want to marry before. I just manage. So please, hold your peace. Established and agreed relationship. I'll get in some detail as we move on. So let me just stop there. Some people then ask, what was the length of courtship? How long are we supposed to court for? What did the Bible say? The Bible did not say anything about the length of courtship. There is no hard or fast rule. It doesn't have to be 6 years. It doesn't have to be 10 years. Some people court for 6 years, don't do it right, and they still have a faulty building. Some people court for 6 months, do it excellently well, and have a beautiful marriage. So there is no established time frame. But you must understand that since marriage is an important decision, you should enter into it with a lot of responsibility. Before you commit yourself to marriage, there must be an understanding and knowing of yourself very well enough to get into marriage. Let me say this at this point so you understand the importance of what we're talking about. I heard a man of God speaking a couple of days ago, and he shared this example, and this example was I'd never heard something like this before, but I think it's a very important way to drive home the importance of marriage. He said this was his own auntie, so it's not something I heard from somebody else. This is his auntie. His auntie married this particular man, and for about maybe 17 years ago or so, she had mentioned that God called her into a children's ministry. But her husband was not in agreement. So she kept pushing it. She kept pushing it. She kept pushing it. 17 years after, the babe was like, man, I've tried. I've waited and waited and waited. This man did not agree. I'm going to move on. I'm going to do it. So she started to do it by herself with her own money. And so she got a hall. She got a couple of friends to get involved in the program. And they started to organize the program. And there was a date set. They had already pre-registered about 100 children or so had already pre-registered to be there. Then on the day of the event, she left early from the house because she told her children, I think she had 2 or 3 children, I can't remember. They were supposed to meet her at the event. So she left before them and told them to meet her up there, and her friends were going to join her. As she got to the event, a couple of minutes later, they called her and told her that one of her sons had some stomach issue or some health problems and couldn't be there. That's one child out. Not long after that, another child had a medical issue, so basically both of her children could not be there. While she was there, one friend after the other kept making excuses and kept sending her messages. I'm sorry, I can't make it. Something came up. I'm sorry, I can't make it. Something came up. And like that, every single one of her friends dropped out. And she was there on that program that God told her 17 years ago about. That she had used her own money to do because this man refused to agree. And at that program, not one single child came. And he said, at the end of the day, she sat down and she began to ask God, but God, you called me to do this thing. God, you asked me to do this thing. So why is it that nobody came? And she said, God told her that he's not there. He's not in it. Why? Because even though God told her to do it, in God's established order, the husband is the head of the home. And when the husband did not agree, that agreement was nullified. And because of that, God's hand was not there. That is the importance of marriage. And let me tell you this, because the devil knows the importance of God's order. See, God is God, right? God can do anything he wants on this earth. But God has an order, and that is why God did not drop Jesus from the sky. Jesus came through the womb of Mary because of God's established order. And God will not go against his order. And in God's order, God says the man is the head of the woman. The man is the head of the home. God has already established it. That's why you must be careful who you marry. You must be careful who you marry. It's not just about aesthetics, so. It's not about just looking cute. Because at the end of the day, God will still ask her about her destiny when she gets to heaven. Why would you miss the enjoyment on this earth? Because of carelessness in this thing called marriage. And I believe that's why the emphasis on marriage is so strong here before you leave. You know why? Because at the end of the day, I believe to a large extent who you marry determines if you make heaven or hell. That's the truth. Because the person that is closest to you knows you more than anybody else. And they will push some buttons. Maybe the day you are keeping malice because of toothpaste, is it that the trumpet will sound? What happens? No. I just want to be honest. What happens? That is why you must be careful who you tie yourself to. Think about it. If I tie myself to a colt, wherever that person I go, be careful. It's not all fun and games, but it can be fun and games if you just get it right. But then again, the choice is yours. God says, I lay before you life and death. If you like, choose death. That's it. But if you choose life, not just you, but your seed also will live. If you ask what's my advice on the length of courtship, I would say, since the gestation period is 9 months, at least give it some time. At least give it some time. So is it possible that you can meet someone, a married person within 1 month and be successful? You can't, no. There's always exceptions to the rule. But what if you are not the exception? You understand? Like, what? I like how we like to think that we're always the exception. But sometimes we are not the exception. What happens if you are now the rule? It's God's grace that will prevail. But really, we say 9 months because at least get some time for you to know the person. And like I say all the time, you don't know people by asking questions, though. Oh, how are you doing? Are you a great person? Of course, if you ask me now, am I a very kind person? I will not say I'm wicked. And even as you see me like this, you might think that I cannot hurt a fly, just because, but it's my husband that can tell you about me. It's my children. That's why I always tell people, if your message, if your life does not replicate itself at home, you are failed. You are just an actor. And there are plenty actors. And you just shake. But when you get home, you're also the lion of the tribe of your home. As you arrive, all the children take cover under the table. That's not anybody here in the name of Jesus.